Hi, hello, hi, welcome. It is me, it is I, hi. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Wendy Ivy Martinez, also known as the Geek Goddess here on YouTube. And today we are doing a wrap up for June. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so during the month of June, I read a total of 6 books. Yes, it is not the greatest month for me. It is an improvement from April and May, I believe. Yeah, I think it's an improvement from April and May, but still not my best month, especially how July, I'm literally anticipating to read like 12 different books, and I'm carrying one over from June, so we'll see how that goes. Per usual, the way that I do these videos, I do it from the lowest ranked book or the lowest rating all the way up into the highest rating. It was a mediocre reading month for me, so let's go ahead and get started with my 3 stars. Luckily, I had no 1 star and I had no 2 stars, so you can call that a win, I guess. Glass half full. Yeah, glass half full. We'll call it glass half full. So the first 3 star that I have for you is episode 13 by Craig Dou. This is going to be coming up in an upcoming reading vlog that's going to be coming out this month during the month of July, where I basically read YouTubers' favorite standalone books and give my own little review and thoughts and opinions on them. So this one was one of the booktubers' favorite horror novels, favorite horror standalone novels. And this one is basically about a team of paranormal investigators who go into a haunted location and they decide to film there because there's a lot of like conspiracies and they're like, oh, this place is really haunted. But this paranormal team group, whatever, they have their own TV show and they are different from other paranormal TV shows because they try to approach things with a scientific point of view instead of purely just a, this is a ghost. Oh my gosh, did you hear that noise? That was a ghost sort of point of view. They go into this with a scientific point of view, but then things start to get twisted. This episode never ends up being released, and it is a combination of mixed media, and we have to sort of piece together what exactly happened during that episode. And this book was great. However, I didn't have the greatest time with the ending. The ending was kind of a letdown. I just felt like in reality, if like these things are real, this just doesn't make sense to me. Like the ending didn't really make sense. So I don't know. I was very disappointed by the ending, but I did like the book up until the ending. I really did enjoy it. The characters were a little bit infuriating, but I did like the story, the plot, the concept of the whole thing. I mean, I love I'm a ghost and paranormal investigation girly. Like you'll catch me watching paranormal investigations a lot, or like ghosts caught on cameras, like that's my shiznit. Okay, that is my shiznit. And so I had high hopes for this one, and I really shouldn't have, but it wasn't the worst book. Do you get what I mean? It's not the worst book, but it's not the best either. So that one is episode 13 by Craig Dou. The next one, it came out in my Reading Freida McFadden. So I created a reading vlog where I read Freida McFadden for the first time to see if she's worth the read or not. And I read this book. This was the last book that I read by her, and that is The Teacher by Freida McFadden. This book was okay. This was like her second, I don't want to say disappointment. It's just like from the other books that I read, I was expecting a little bit more, especially how this is one of her like newest releases, so I was expecting a little bit more depth and a little bit more twisting to the story. But by this time, this was already my 5th Freida McFadden book, so I already kind of knew where she likes to go with her story, so I pretty much guessed everything. Not trying to sound like a smart aleck, but after reading so many books back to back by her, I just got the like routine down. I kind of knew what she was gonna do and where she was gonna take the plot. So I was like, oh, I got this. Of course, I was like right with the story, so this one didn't throw me through like a plot twisting loop. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, did that really happen? Oh my god. No, No, I already knew what was gonna happen. So in this one, we are basically following two characters. We are following our main character who is a teacher. I forgot her name at this point. And we are also following her student. So the teacher basically has the perfect life. She has like the perfect husband. He's like, oh my gosh, so amazing, right? And she works at this school, but she specifically has one student in particular that tends to cause some stir-ups when it comes to everything, okay? Like, she ended up getting a teacher fired because of supposedly he like abused her in some sort of way or another. And so now that she has this student in her class, she's very hesitant with her, and it makes you think like, why are you so hesitant with her? Why are you so like right away you don't even want to hear her side? Do you get what I mean? Like, you know that there's something there. And so we're following her, we're following the student, we're following the student's perspective as she sees this teacher when she goes inside the class. And right away this teacher is like, I don't like this student, and the student already feels it. Like, she's like, oh, this lady's so mean. I feel like she's like really against me. And so we follow that, but of course it turns into something a lot more twisted and dark because it's Frida McFadden. And so this, I didn't like the plot twist. I didn't like the ending. I didn't like some of the characters that we followed. But I mean, it was a fast-paced read. It still kept you wanting to read it. So that's the only reason why it's 3 out of 5 stars, because it did keep that entertainment going. However, it was anticlimactic, and the twists were just not twisting, and the characters were just annoying. So there's that. So there's that one. So that is my other 3-star. And then last but certainly not least, I am so sad that this is a 3-star because this was one of my most anticipated reads for 2024. And maybe it's the fact that I listened to this on audio, but that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I had such high hopes for this one, and maybe that's why it was a letdown. I don't know, but I really enjoyed Jennifer L. Armentrout when I was a teenager. She wrote these 2 series, like the White Hot Kiss series with like the demon and the gargoyle and like our main character, and then she wrote another series called the Luck series about like aliens, and she was my first introduction to enemies to lovers, and she's what made me fall in love with that trope. And so when she wrote this, right, or because I've had this for years, I was like, oh my gosh, it's an adult version of Enemies to Lovers by one of my favorite YA authors. It literally, like, to a point where I almost rated this 2 stars, but I made it all the way through. I did like the ending, and I'm hoping it gets better. Also, I think that from now on, I'm probably going to be reading this physically instead of listening to this on audio, because I wonder if that hindered from me fully enjoying it, because I couldn't visualize as much when I was listening to it versus like physically reading it. I don't know what happened. If you guys don't know, this is about our main character, Poppy, and Poppy is a maiden, and basically maidens, they're like basically sent to be ascended with the gods or whatever, and nobody knows exactly how the ascension works or what exactly happens to make these people ascended, but they basically become, once they ascend, they basically become close to like godlike figures. And we follow Poppy, and Poppy she wants to live her own life, you know, so she ends up meeting this one guy one certain night because she wants to have a little bit of fun before her life is like dedicated to like these gods. And she meets this guy who ends up being a guard named Hawk, and he ends up being her protector or like her bodyguard. And it's like their romance, but there's a lot of like political intrigue in here, a lot of conspiracies, and it sounds like the concept sounds so great, and it sounded so amazing, and I don't know why it fell flat to me. Like, I really think it was probably the audiobook. I don't know, because I feel like, or maybe I read it at the wrong time, but I had such high hopes for this one, and it let me down a little bit. It let me down. Okay, so moving on to my 4 stars. So for my 4 stars, I don't really have a 4 star, but I have like a 4.5 star. Would that be a 4.5 star? You know what? No, I'm making this a 5 star. You heard it here, folks. I'm making this a 5 star. I have 3 5 stars for you. One is a reread, and that is going to be Crown of Midnight by Miss Sarah J. Maas. This is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series. I am rereading this series because I really want to get to the Crescent City series. I read all of ACOTAR. Now I'm going to be reading this one. That way I can finally get to the Crescent City series and hopefully make a vlog for that. And then after I finish the Crescent City series, hopefully make like a guide to Sarah J. Maas, because I've always wanted to do that. And like tier rank her books. Those are like 2 videos that I really want to do. 3 videos, because the vlog is one of them. So rereading this one, this was great, even the second time around. I love revisiting Celaena Sardothien. She is the shiznit. She is my favorite protagonist of all time. I love her wittiness, her confidence, just her whole attitude and her badassery. She is like the perfect heroine, MC. My favorite of all time is Celaena Sardothien, so I'm very excited to be going back into this world because I really like her. I really like her story. If you guys do not know, in this series we are basically following our main character, Celaena Sardothien, and Celaena Sardothien, she basically came from this kingdom called Terrasen, and Terrasen was overthrown by this like evil king, and she gets thrown into the salt mines as a slave, and she ends up getting released by the prince. He's like, oh, I'll grant you freedom if you participate in these trials to become the king's personal assassin or whatever. And so she goes through all these trials to see if she can finally become the assassin, because obviously she wants her freedom back. And there is romance, there is fantasy, there is so much more. Like, it starts off good. If you like games, like fantasy games, like who's gonna come out on top, it literally kicks off with a bang, and it only grows from there. So I love the series so much. I think this is better than ACOTAR. I'm sorry, but I do. I think I love Throne of Glass more. Okay, let's agree to disagree. A lot of people are gonna come at me for that, but I personally like Throne of Glass more than I like ACOTAR. So there's that. But rereading that one. My next 5-star read is going to be again for the reading vlog that I have coming out this month, where I read YouTubers or booktubers' favorite standalones. This was Gabby Reed's favorite standalone, and that is A Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I read this one, the first chapter in that, like reading the first chapters of books on my TBR, on my physical TBR, and I didn't rank it that high. I ranked chapter 1 a 6 out of 10 for entertainment. And so I was shocked. I was shooketh when I freaking loved this book, okay? Ever since I read my first thriller, okay? Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney was my first thriller that I ever read years ago. 2016, I think, is when I started that. When I read that. 2015 or 2016. After that, I have really been hoping to find a thriller that thrillins me to that point, okay? I know that is not a word, but we are making it, okay? I have been waiting for that feeling, that feeling that book gave me, that rush, that high, that thriller high from reading the first thriller. I have been searching the world long and far offeth, and I have not found that, oh my god, jaw-dropping moment, you know, until this baby did it. I didn't even know that I could feel that anymore, but I did. It has awakened that feeling that I once had, and I love that. I love this book. So if you guys don't know, In this book, we are following I like how I'm starting with the review first before telling you the synopsis. I'm so sorry. But in this book, we are basically following our main character. Our main character is a psychotherapist, and he decides to go to this high security facility for like mentally unstable patients because he really wants to work with this patient, Alicia, specifically, because Alicia years ago unalived her husband, shot him in the face, right? And just never spoke a word again. And no matter how much people have tried to talk to her, she just does not speak. And so he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get through to her. And he's so sure that he's the one that's gonna get through to her. And it is her story, Alicia's story, and him trying to finally break through her shell and get her to speak once more. And this book was so good, you guys. This was so good. The ending was like jaw-dropping. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know. Oh, this was great. This was great. This was one of the best like other shoe drop moment books ever of all time. Loved it. Loved it. And then last but certainly not least, my other last final 5-star book is going to be WTF Just Happened by Elizabeth Enton. As you can see, I tabbed the bejeebas out of this book. This one is basically a scientific exploration of the afterlife with like scientific studies and things like that. And I really loved this a lot because I was going through a existential crisis really bad, especially in April, and I ended up buying this book, but I was reading it very slowly just because of my mental state. I couldn't even handle this. And I am a person that like, I believe, you know what I mean? I believe, but I like when there's scientific evidence of things because I'm like, oh, and there's scientific evidence. All in all, and this was like great. Like I had a great time. I highlighted so much. I highlighted all these studies, and I found myself now like telling people what I learned in this book a lot. Like anytime somebody brings up anything about like death or whatever, I'm like, did you know that blah blah blah? Did you know that blah blah blah? Like I'll just like say all these random things, and it doesn't even have to do with death. It could just be like about like chances or like law of attraction, things like that. There's so many studies in here that not just has to do with like death, but just like a lot of like law of attraction and like new agey things that have like science to back it up, or at least like some scientific studies to back it up. And I just found this book really fascinating. If you guys ever go through an existential crisis, or you are a believer but that also likes the backup evidence of like sciencey stuff, definitely check this book out because I really enjoyed it. So anyways, oh, and then lastly, I have to bring this up because I didn't finish this one. I really wanted to, but I didn't because I underestimated how hefty this one was. And that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. I was really hoping to finish this in June. It is July 1st now, and I still haven't finished it. But I'm almost done. I'm like 100 pages away. I didn't realize it was almost 500 pages and that the text was super eensy weensy tiny. So hopefully I'm going to be finishing this by tomorrow. So that way I can start with my July books because now I'm behind. Anyways, you guys, that is it. That is everything that I read in July. Hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post. I post 2 to 3 times a week. This week I am posting 3 times. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!